Hey, what's happening, gamers? As you may have all guessed, there's no Retro Mondays today. I just couldn't get the video up in time, but it will be back next week. In the meantime, please enjoy my Super Star Wars trilogy that was done for my other channel, Game Night Show, in August of 2009. When it comes to the original Star Wars, I am a super fan. Then again, I'm named after Luke Skywalker, so I was cursed at birth. The following video is a little bit long, as it's a series of 3 reviews. So make sure you grab a snack and have a lot of fun. Enjoy the feature.
Hey gamers, it's K-Wing here, bringing you an extra special review from my childhood. The Force is strong with Super Star Wars. And yes, this marks the first LucasArts game to appear on the Wii's Virtual Console, and hopefully Zombies Ate My Neighbors is not far away. Anyway, Super Star Wars' story is loosely based after the movie The New Hope. The Empire has tracked down a rebel frigate and attacks it. During the Imperial boarding party, an escape pod leaves the rebel ship and crash lands on the planet Tatooine. Super Star Wars is a side-scrolling action-adventure game with some Mode 7 vehicle stages, timed levels, and an even more impressive Death Star Flight Sim Trench Run. My personal favorite about this game. This game has a total of 3 characters. Luke is the fastest, Han is the coolest, and Chewie is the strongest. The whole point of this game is to run and gun through the 11 exciting stages, blasting and exploding everything in your path, upgrading your blaster, and of course defeating the bosses. The gameplay is downright fantastic for this game. At the start of the game, players guide young Skywalker through the desert of Tatooine armed with only a blaster. In order to fire, you hold in the Y button, and much like the Contra games of old, you can shoot in multiple directions as well. Super does have its share of platforming elements too, and players jump with the B button. To perform a spin jump, you hold jump and up at the same time. This will cause your character to jump a little bit higher and to spin. Now the point of these levels is to collect the upgrades for your blaster so it'll be stronger, and just destroy everything in your path. To use a thermal detonator, you press the X button, and this is basically the super move of the game. Later in the game, players can use Luke's lightsaber. You bring out the saber with the A button. While not as strong as an upgraded blaster, it's pretty handy, especially when performing a spin jump. The Mode 7 stages are the vehicle part for this game, and they were ahead of their time for early 3D Star Wars dogfights. The controls are the same. The Y button shoots and you steer with the gamepad. This game was done back during a time when developers made sure that the gameplay was as smooth as glass, and they didn't worry about the visuals until later. However, like all games, this game is not without its share of problems. Well, very small. First and foremost, I hated the sand speeder levels with the utmost passion for living. While they may be visually appealing, I feel that the controls suffer a lot. This stage requires you to shoot the Jawas, collect hearts, dodge pits whenever possible. Now this stage isn't next to impossible to beat, it's just really annoying. The stage is also really long, and it gets rather boring pretty fast. What makes the stage so hard for me is the refilling of your energy and gas while duking it out with some of the nasty hoverbike angry Jawas that appear randomly throughout the stage. No, thank you. Even as a kid, I positively hated this stage, and 17 years later, I still don't like it. The thing that annoys me the most in this game is Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. You can't use it to deflect lasers at all. You heard me. Up to this point, this was the most accurate Star Wars video game ever. I mean, it had the sound effects, it had everything. But the lightsaber just fails. I mean, sure, you don't really need the lightsaber in this game anyway, but it would be nice to actually be able to block laser blast. I mean, it's a lightsaber for crying out loud. That's what they do. And it doesn't make this game bad at all. It's like I said, it's more of an annoyance. This game is pretty tough too, so it will take a few tries in order to beat the game. But like most 16-bit games of old, you just have to memorize what you're supposed to do. And then the rest is like cake. Super Star Wars has a lot of incredibly awesome things going for it. First and foremost is the game had amazing music by Paul Webb. For an early 90s game, this was the closest any Star Wars game has ever come to being a great tribute to John Williams' musical score. It fit the game so perfectly, and the beautiful arrangements actually added to the gameplay. The sound effects are spot on as well, to the sounds of the blaster fire, lightsabers, and even the deaths of the Jawas. LucasArts and JVC made sure this game was as authentic as possible. While the Mode 7 stages were pretty cool, the Death Star had to be my personal favorite. If you hated the sand speeder stages like me, then this is more reason to love the flying X-Wing stages. Now this paved the way to future X-Wing and TIE Fighter PC games. But the mode that blew everybody's mind in this game was the 3D Death Star Trench Run. Talk about wow! Considering all the early limitations of 16-bit games, this flight sim was so awesome that it really made gamers feel like they were barreling down the trench of the Death Star. I can't get any further talking about this game without going into the debug menu. In fact, throughout this review, you've seen me using it. Now players could replay the game using any character they wanted, on any stage, using Luke's lightsaber, blaster upgrades, and even skipping levels. Talk about genius! I mean, the game was already wickedly amazing without this, but this is what put the icing on the cake. At the title screen, input this code, AAAA-XBBBY-XXXXA-YYYB. A sound will play if you did it right. Then you press start to begin the game, and you know the code worked right if you can choose between Luke, Han, and Chewie. For the stage select, you want to press select on the second controller, and you will finish the stage automatically. Pressing L and R on controller 2 will also access the debug menu. How awesome was that? I loved being able to skip the levels I hated the most, like the sand speeder stages, to play the levels that I liked. As you can see, I mainly played this game using Luke, but occasionally I would switch to Han. Just being able to do the debug menu for this game was so awesome and made this game a must-have back then, and now that this game is on the Wii Virtual Console, this is a game you can afford not to be without. It has solid gameplay, 11 awesome levels, great music and sound, it's very challenging, 3 difficulty settings, 3 characters, the debug menu, Mode 7 vehicle stages, a 3D flight sim Death Star trench run, and most importantly, it was so addicting, and it's a wicked fun game. That being said, Game Nights gives Super Star Wars an 8.5 out of 10, and this was the closest thing 17 years ago that gamers could come to playing a great Star Wars video game. And after all that time, the game has aged incredibly well. But being that this is the first game in the series, there are still 2 more Super Star Wars reviews to come. After the destruction of the Death Star, the Empire is searching for the Rebel base and discovers them on the ice planet of Hoth. Super Star Wars 2 is basically the same side-scrolling action-adventure game as before, with new bells and whistles. Players start the game as Luke Skywalker, and unlike the last game, you can use the lightsaber right off the bat. As the game progresses, you unlock a total of 9 Force powers, although you only really need to use a few, but 9's still cool. Like the last game, you can play as 3 characters, Luke, Han, and Chewie. The game is divided into side-scrolling levels and Mode 7 stages too. The only flight sim in this game is the asteroid field, which was a lot of fun. Unlike the last game, it has a lot more platforming stages, and it's the hardest of the trilogy. In this game, the bosses are beefier, and Luke faces Darth Vader in a pretty cool lightsaber duel. Well, for the most part, the gameplay is virtually the same as the last game. You can shoot in multiple directions, you have, of course, a Contra 3 style bombs, but now Han and Chewie can carry grenades. You heard me right, grenades. Excellent. Which you throw with the A button. The double jump has been improved in this game too, and you do it by tapping the B button twice. Luke's lightsaber has a lot of uses in this game. For one, you can deflect enemy lasers, finally, while pressing down on the gamepad and holding in the Y button. Luke can deflect just about any attack in this game. You'll also notice a bar in the right-hand corner that says Force. By pressing Select, you bring up the Force menu, and then press L and R to choose between the 9 Force powers, although only 6 of them are actually cool in this game. Once you have your power, selected, press the X button to use it. Flying is the same as before, with some minor improvements. For the snowspeeder stage, you'll notice controlling the vehicle is a lot easier and kind of fun too. Just like the movies, players need to take down the ATSTs using the tow cables, and it is so much fun. The only flight sim mechanic in this game is the asteroid field, where you have to fend off TIE fighters and blow up asteroids, which it was okay, but I kind of like the Death Star trench run better. But it's not in this game, so you get what you get. Still, gamers, you need to brace yourself. This game has a lot of issues. Let's first start with the vehicle stages. When fighting off a lot of enemies in this game, it slows down. I'm not kidding. When you're flying in your snow speeder and you're facing off like the chicken walkers and these dudes in the hover bikes, the gameplay will slow down. And this makes it very hard to maneuver and avoid being hit. Ugh. Now, for some reason, the developer decided that the last game wasn't hard enough. So they cranked up the difficulty so much so that this game, I've ranked it as the 10th hardest video game of all time. Even on easy, gamers will still get pwned time and time again. The enemies are 10 times stronger than the last game, and they take a way lot more to kill, and I mean a lot. The mini snow monsters can freeze Luke and then beat the crap out of you while you're trying to de-thaw. What were they thinking? The bosses in this game, unless you know how to beat them, they will frustrate the living crap out of you, especially the Probe, Chicken Walker, Dagobah Monster, and of course Darth Vader. Don't even get me started there. This game's jump mechanic is terribly broken compared to the last game. It's just way too sensitive in this game, and you die a lot because of jumping. I mean, how can you even fathom that? I'm not lying either. Jumping in the last game was way better than this one. It's to the point where you'll be wondering, how in the world did I overshoot the platform again and again? Now, the jumping isn't your fault at all in this game. It's completely the game's engine, and that's a real shame. The health power-ups are scattered throughout the levels, and it's next to impossible not to take damage when playing this game. It is so hard to keep your health at a reasonable level. But wait, it gets better. The blaster power-ups are very hard to find in this game, and they only give you, get this, 2 per stage. Terrific! Still, out of all the crap, the worst part about this game is playing as Han and Chewie. If you thought playing as Skywalker was bad, at least he had a lightsaber to defend himself with. These guys have nothing. And the developers decided yet again to crank up the difficulty. More so! In fact, it's so bad that you can only beat their stages with a password. Wow. And I mean, wow. That's bad. Well, unlike the last review, I don't really have many good things to say about this game, and GVC and LucasArts dropped the ball big time. All they had to do was improve the gameplay just a little bit. Instead, they did a complete overhaul and the opposite. The Hoth stages were a lot of fun and paid tribute to the movie perfectly. I liked using the tow cable stuff and taking down ATSTs. Loved the graphics for this game too, and they are very impressive compared to the last game. Paul Webb returned to do the music, and it was incredible yet again. Just like the last game, there is a debug menu, and you would be a fool not to use it. I do not advise playing this game cold turkey without cheating, and I don't say this very often, because even cheating, the game is still insanely flawed and hard. Anyway, the best cheat that I would use in this game is the all force powers. At the title screen, quickly press XBBYXAA at the title screen. A sound will confirm the correct code. Press start before the demonstration mode begins, and then press select during the gameplay to access the many force powers. Okay, now let's talk about the force powers. They are great! Since power-ups are so few, the force health is a lifesaver, and it doesn't take up that much force power either. And trust me, you want to use this power like it's second nature, because it comes in insanely handy throughout this game. The saber control is awesome too, and it's perfect for attacking lots of stormtroopers. What you do is you press the X button and then you can command where Luke throws his lightsaber. And this is great for doing long-range attacks too. The freeze is pretty cool. Get it? Cool. It freezes the enemies, and it's great for close combat and taking out groups of enemies, especially when you have low health. Turning invisible is awesome, although I would only use it in the bad Hoth levels, considering there are wave after wave of enemies, and it's best just to run through that level. The best power-up in this game is the elevation, though. Since the game's jumping is hideously broken, this makes it all better. When you fall, and you will, this is the only thing to save your miserable life. As long as your force gauge is full, you can come back from accidentally falling to your demise anytime in the game with the elevation force jump. Epic win! I mean, this move is so cool because as soon as you fall off a platform, it doesn't matter if it would kill you before. You just keep jumping and pressing up, and Luke will save himself. That was pretty cool. The passwords are something that you cannot be without in this game, and sadly, you will need them to skip the terrible Han and Chewie levels. But even the passwords and cheats aren't enough to save this game from the dark side. It has great action-adventure, bad platforming, great flight sim mechanics, decent vehicle stages, awesome music and sound, passwords, debug menu, great force powers, and playing with cheats makes it fun. Sadly, it's just not enough. The game is too hard as it is, and it has way too many issues and glitches. So Game Nights gives Super Empire Strikes Back a 6.5 out of 10, and I do not advise playing this game without cheating. With cheats, I think I'd give this game a 7.2 out of 10. Only one Star Wars game remains, Super Return of the Jedi. Now, after Luke faced his greatest fear and took on Darth Vader in Cloud City, Luke and Leia leave with Chewie from the Rebel fleet to rescue Han Solo from Jabba's clutches. Once again, Skywalker returns to his home planet of Tatooine, except this time, he is no mere Padawan, he is a true Jedi. Super Return of the Jedi, like its predecessors, is a 2D side-scrolling action-adventure game that is divided into multiple concepts. For one, there are two character classes in this game. You have the melee, which would be Skywalker, and the long-range fighters, that would be Han Solo and every other blasting-wielding nut. Unlike the last game, Skywalker can only use a lightsaber this time around, and he has 5 force powers that return from Super Empire Strikes Back. Although the force powers are still as epic as always. Skywalker can once again freeze enemies with the force, sneak past them, throw his lightsaber, and even heal. Yes, I know I'm leaving one out, and we'll talk about it later. Brand new to the series is the inclusion of Princess Leia and Wicket the Ewok. Just like the last game, it's divided into different gameplay styles. You have, of course, the platforming, the running and gunning, the Mode 7 stages. Plus, for the first time in the series, we have a first-person view Death Star attack. Still, the overall concept of this game is to rescue Han Solo, face Darth Vader again, destroy the shield generator on Endor, defeat the Emperor, and destroy the second Death Star. Wow, that's a lot to do. Well, not much has changed gameplay-wise from the last game. As stated before, Luke is the only one who can't use a blaster. Luke's controls are exactly the same, except they've been fine-tuned just a little bit. Like, Luke is able to use the lightsaber to block now by actually hitting the A button. This game also has a new icon that makes Luke go all hyper-like. He can run faster, jump higher, and kill enemies just by touching them. That's sick! Leia has the highest jump in this game, which really doesn't make that much sense, but she's the only character who's able to use both melee and long-range attacks. Although, only at different parts of the game can she actually use a blaster, but it's still pretty cool. Like the last time, both Han and Chewie can shoot in multiple directions, use grenades, and even super bombs when they pick up a thermal detonator. So as you can see, not much has changed. Same can be said for the Mode 7 stages. The only difference here is now you can't move from side to side like before, unless of course you're playing in the Millennium Falcon stages. Still, this game is not without its headaches. Let's first start with Skywalker, shall we? Now, out of all the Force powers to make a triumphant return, why in the world did the Reflect make it back in? I'm serious, why did this Force power make it over some of the better ones? Especially considering how easy in this game it is to actually block with the lightsaber with the A button. This just really annoys me, mainly because I grew to love the elevation force jump in Super Empire Strikes Back. It made the game playable, and replaying it, knowing that I could do that super jump, oh, that was so much fun. I also really hate the Rancor pit. The reason why this level just ultimately fails is because you have these stupid volcanoes placed everywhere, and they just really degenerate your health. Ah yes, the Emperor boss fight. Now what makes this boss so difficult has nothing to do with the boss himself. Nope. It has to do with Skywalker's surroundings. Bet you didn't see that one coming. It is very unlikely that Pruneface will be able to kill you. However, falling through the obstacles is another story, so keep a sharp eye on the lightning strikes, young Jedi. Otherwise, you're toast. But what shocked me even more was escaping the Death Star. Holy crap, was that ever hard. Considering that even on Brave difficulty, this game is pretty much a cakewalk. The controls are absolutely hideous for this level, considering how great they are the rest of the game. It makes no sense. You have to hold down the B button to accelerate, and you basically have to guess when you actually need to move your ship. If you don't move it, you're going to smack into something. If you do move it, you're going to smack into something. See, it just doesn't work. All the while trying to avoid being baked to a crisp by those flames chasing after you. This level is just, you would need a PhD in order to beat it. Oh, I hated every minute of it. I went from 28 lives to 3 before I finally beat it. That's just dreadfully bad. Now, Super Return to the Jedi has some really cool things going for it, though. For one, unlike the last game, you don't need to use debugs or cheats at all. You can still do it if you want to, but I didn't. All it does is give you unlimited thermal detonators and stuff. But anyway, here's the debug cheat menu. At the title screen, press AABBXXYYABXYABXY. At the title screen, hit the start button and then you'll hear a sound. I think it's laughter. Then make sure you plug in a second controller to skip the level whenever you want. Okay, Luke's saber skills are excellent, and it makes him the character of choice for every level except maybe 2. I just had a lot of fun cutting down lots of enemies using Skywalker because he is the best character in the game, and the lightsaber combat is just awesome. The Force Heal is still the greatest of Luke's abilities. Return to the Jedi has tons of Force power-ups scattered throughout the levels, so even if you can't find enough health swords or hearts in the stage, Luke can use these health power-ups to heal himself with the Force. A lot. I love Ewok Village B. I know for a fact that millions of gamers hate this level with the utmost passion for living. I'm not one of them. The reason this stage is so cool is because it has the best shortcut in the entire series. I'm serious. All you need to do is shoot your arrows at this giant tree and climb up it. It is really easy to do too. I like the fact that the game lets you play as a total of 5 characters. Not to mention you can choose a character to use on almost any level, with the exception to the Skywalker only levels. This helps the gamer determine what character is needed to beat that particular stage, and it adds a very cool strategy element. Otherwise, if you pick the wrong character, then the game's gonna pwn you. Most skilled gamers can beat this game just using Luke Skywalker, with the exception of the Rancor stage using Han or Chewie. Although there's no shame in actually switching characters, that's part of the fun of this game. The speeder bike stages for its day was just jaw-dropping. I mean, look at the graphics of this level. That is just nuts. This level was absolutely just so much fun to play, and I dare say that this is the best Mode 7 stage in the entire trilogy. Another really great factor about this game is being able to play as Princess Leia. which a lot of people see as a great addition to the series. She has 2 different control schemes too, which is kind of cool. She can use melee attacks like her brother, and she can also use a blaster like her husband. She also sports 3 different costumes in this game, each with their own unique abilities. So there you go. Many people love playing as her because of her super jump and of course the awesome super move. All the characters are represented very well for a video game, and it does the Star Wars universe justice. But the animations for Wicket makes this a must-own game. I mean, look at how adorable he is. They even got his walk down perfectly. Oh, that's so cool. The sound effects are as impressive as always, not gonna lie. But the music is what puts this game over the top in my mind and so many others. Paul Webb goes out with a huge Death Star bang with some of his best Williams arrangements yet. All in all, Super Return of the Jedi was a really great gameplay experience, but at the same time, it has some major issues as well. Like Super Empire Strikes Back, some levels are downright impossible and a bad joke. Still, this game closes out a very well-made Star Wars trilogy game series for the Super Nintendo, and I am very happy that the series finally re-released on the Wii's Virtual Console. This game has excellent side-scrolling action goodness, an awesome speeder biker stage, insanely cool lightsaber combat, great platforming, hideous flight sim controls, amazing music and sound, cheats, password system, 5 characters, and immensely high replay value. So, Game Nights Entertainment gives Super Return of the Jedi a 9.3 out of 10. Well, thus concludes my Star Wars Trilogy review series for Game Nights. Thanks once again for watching another Game Nights video review. Keep it locked here for more of our trailers, gameplay vids, interviews, and don't forget to listen to our radio program every week. This is K-Wing as always saying God bless and happy gaming. Until we meet again, gamers.